Hello. My name is Nawaish, and I am an illustrator who likes to play Minecraft. I'm also an illustrator that wants to get better at choosing and using colors in my work. Some people say that in order to get better at colors, you first need a good understanding of values. This kind of value. The darkness or lightness of a color or hue. Doing value studies, or also just painting in grayscale, can really help with defining shapes and finding contrast, and coming up with an overall good composition, which creates a solid foundation of a drawing. And with that understanding of the values, choosing color should, hopefully, become much easier and less confusing. So for practice, I went into my survival world and started drawing some of the builds in grayscale. And then I started thinking, can we do this in Minecraft? I'm not talking about using black and white and gray blocks, but what if instead we turn everything into grayscale? And we just focus on the value and the texture of the block while we're building, not even thinking what colors they are or what sort of material they're made of. What would that be like? And for an extra layer of fun, we don't get to see what it looks like in color until everything is finished. So how am I even doing this? There's a setting in Windows where you can toggle on and off some color filters, and one of them is a grayscale setting. So I'm gonna have that on whenever I'm in Minecraft. Okay, shall we get to drawing? I was doing some practice thumbnails, just putting down some shapes for interesting compositions, and this one right here piqued my interest. Something about the shape reminded me of some sort of tree root. I started imagining a world where there's these giant trees with their roots exposed, and their trunks are just kinda cut in half, just looming in the distance with a path winding in between the roots. And someone decided to settle down for the night in a little campsite. I watched a couple of videos about value studies in preparation for this video, so I'll include them in the description box below. They explain values and value studies a lot better than I did. But in those videos, one of the main points that they talk about, especially for landscapes, is that you should have maybe 3 or 4 shades of gray that you're working with. The sky is the lightest, and it gradually gets darker until you get to the foreground. So that's what I'm doing right now. And of course, that's more like a loose guideline and not like a strict rule that you always need to follow. It really depends on what you're drawing. Like for example, in this drawing, I want there to be slightly less contrast. I'm hoping to have kind of like a spooky, dreary, maybe kind of foggy sort of setting. When we go to actually build this, I'm going to try to do something similar with the blocks. So the big tree in the front is going to be the darkest, and it's going to have the most detail to it. And then the trees will gradually get lighter, almost like we're faking how far away things are. I decided to make the tent the darkest thing in the drawing. Maybe it might have been better if there was more contrast, but I like the gloominess of it. And in the sky, I decided on putting little birds. There's actually a way with Buildstone to make the birds flap their wings, so we're gonna try that. I'm not sure what the story of this world is. Like, what are these weird trees that are cut in half? It makes me wonder what sort of civilization would exist here. We are in my creative world again. You can kind of see a bit of the thing we made last time. We're just gonna put it right beside here. I'm still only going to be using WorldEdit today, but I pinky promise that the next time we're building in here, I'll try out the Axiom mod. Oh, it's weird to see all the blocks in grayscale. What should we use for the base? This is weirdly hard. Actually, I don't really have the creative menu memorized, so maybe this is kind of good. I don't really know where anything is, so it's kind of like a surprise every time. Maybe we can start off with like a terracotta or a concrete, which is here, I think. Just a really simple block that doesn't have any texture on it. Going with my gut feeling, this one. Ooh, yellow terracotta. Okay, I'm just gonna commit to it. Lay down a block of this. Wait, I did yellow concrete instead of terracotta. Yeah, let's just go with it. And we need a viewing platform somewhere around here. Bloop. I think the first thing we do is add some cylinders for the tree trunks. Foreground tree is gonna be the darkest. This one. Green concrete. Okay, have to keep telling myself it's not about the actual colors of the block. Just think about the values. So the trunk will start around here, and then the roots will be like this. We just have to make gigantic cylinders. Maybe something like this? Nah, that seems like a good start. Okay, next one. Something slightly lighter than green concrete. This. Light blue concrete. Ooh, pink concrete. Now that we have two more in, this first one we did is a bit too skinny looking now. Whee! I am amused too easily. We now have giant, floating cylinders. I really underestimated how big this thing was gonna get. This platform is way too small. We need a nice sort of mid-tone gray for the foreground. I'm kind of liking the look of warped nylium because it has like a texture top and then a different texture for the sides. Ooh, basalt might look good too. So let's try this out. On this brush, I set it to a cylinder that's 2 blocks tall, and we can just sort of paint on some mounds. I'm not sure if I am liking the basalt too much, so I'm gonna try out the nylium. Yes, let's keep it. So if we look at the drawing, we should have a bit of a slope, and we can mound up the back over here, just so you can't see how far back this actually goes. Kind of like a false sense of depth. So like we did with the cylinders, we're also gonna make the ground go lighter as it goes further back. Something lighter than the warped nylium. I'm thinking red sandstone. So let's brushy this on. And now something even lighter than the red sandstone. Ice? Ice might be kind of fun, but it doesn't have that top and side texture thing. So maybe not. And regular sandstone is a bit too light. I've decided on the dirt path. Yeah, that looks good. One last pass and smooth everything out. We're going in and doing all the shapes first, so it's time for the roots. Let's do what we do and draw it out first. In the drawing, you don't see the entire root system, but in this build, we're doing the whole tree. So it'll be something like this. Here is the game plan. We're gonna use a different block than what the cylinder is made of, just in case we need to move things around. It'll be easier with WorldEdit if they're different materials. I'm wondering if we could just use a sphere brush and just kinda draw it in. Oop. Okay, it's kinda lumpy. Might be a bit hard to control. Okay, different idea. Still gonna use wool, but this time we're just making a wireframe structure of the roots. This is gonna be a bit tedious, so I'll bring you back once it's done. Roots! Now we can take a brush again. Let's go with this one first. It's not one of the main roots, so we could just practice on this. We need to take a block that's not the concrete or the wool. Something that's similar in value to the concrete. Maybe something like stripped mangrove wood. And then we just brush it on with a cylinder brush and follow along the wireframe. What happens if we use a sphere? That looks bad. Oh, kind of messed that up. Let's delete it all and start over. I wasn't too sure if I liked the mangrove, so I tried out cobbled deep slate, but in the end I decided to use purple terracotta instead. Okay, not bad. Let's try another one. And then we go in and smooth everything out. This is looking pretty good. So let me go and do the back roots. Ooh, I like it. We can now dig out underneath. Wow, this is very dark. There we go, night vision. Just carve away at it. I'm kind of imagining the base of the roots are coming up to a point near the middle. I have made a very disappointing and sad discovery. You can't use the smooth brush on the underside of blocks. So I guess I'm gonna be doing this by hand. I have a feeling that this is something you can do easily in Axiom. Okay, that took a while. Well look, it's clean. The first tree is done. And now we must do that a couple more times. And they did take a while to do. Might have had to do with the fact that I was getting over a cold while doing this, but I eventually got the hang of it. I needed to shift around the trees in the back because there wasn't enough space. It got easier to make the shapes with the wireframe and bulking it up with a cylinder brush, and I was able to use the smoothing brush on the tops of the roots. When everything was done, I went and replaced the concrete of the cylinders to the terracotta of the roots. There are so many stray blocks around here. I probably should have put up some sort of barrier so this doesn't happen. What? Oh geez. Oh boy. I have a feeling I'm gonna be finding these everywhere. Is that another one? Yes. Yes it is. This is so ominous, being surrounded by these trees. Okay. I need a bit of a break from all the trees and the roots, so we can start on the little tent. I'm tempted to use wool, because that's what you would tend to use in survival, but I'm gonna try for something more textured. Like coal, maybe? So the tent is gonna be right here. Of course, a little campfire, and by the looks of it, we are gonna have to make this in a diagonal. Angles. Angles. At first I tried to freehand this, and as angles always are for me, it was a bit of a struggle. But then I realized that it would be much easier if I found the four corners and then just used the line tool, which did help a lot, but it still took me a few tries. Until I realized, oh, I made a mistake. This thing is huge. From the viewing platform, it looks okay. Maybe slightly bigger than it should be. But look at this. It's as big as a house. I was picturing more like a small, dinky little tent for one person. So we are gonna be redoing this. I'm gonna copy and bring this tent over here. And we can try again. Okay, smaller. We need to go smaller. Like this? Maybe a tiny bit bigger. You won't believe it, it's too big again. Third time's the charm. I hope. One of the troubles I'm having is that the roots aren't really in the right spot. So I'm hoping I can just shift them over a bit and get them in place. And we can just redo some of this so it looks closer to what we're going for. Oh, that's so much better. We can just fill this in now. It's a proper sized tent. Unsure if I should leave night vision on. Definitely looks more moody with it off. I'll think about it. The basic shapes are all in now, so we can start thinking about gradients. I haven't really looked at the ores yet. They're pretty cool actually. The muddy roots might be good. It might be too light. Maybe we just need another block in between the two. Let me try stuff out. I'm just finding all these fun blocks we could use, like glazed terracotta. Probably not for the tent. Ooh, skulk block. Another thing we could use somewhere else. Oh, this might work. Nether wart block. I was thinking bricks, but I didn't like the texture. But with this, it's not too in your face. Yeah, the muddy roots are too samey with the terracotta that's on the tree roots. And we're going for contrast with the tent. So we can swap things around. Can't forget the tent pole. Yeah, let's add some gradients in here too. Huh. I guess there's no difference between the campfires. So if the campfire is here, we want to make the blocks around it brighter. So we can try out some different blocks. Inside the tent will be dark. Ooh, maybe we can put the ore here. Kind of a nice texture. Going from the nylium to the ore. Campsite done. Let's start on the path. And always looking at the drawing, the path in the foreground is a bit lighter than the ground around it. But I'm gonna try to avoid using the blocks that I used for the light around the fire. Let's see. Let's scroll through this. See what looks interesting. Okay, so we've got mycelium, stripped warped hyphae, packed mud, and maybe stripped cherry, though this is pretty light. Maybe we can use it really sparingly for highlights. Ooh, this is gonna be the fun part. We're gonna set the blocks to a brush and just sort of paint it in. And we're just gonna put down splotches of the different values while checking in from the viewing platform. Strip Jungle actually works pretty good here. Just slightly lighter, but not as light as the Strip Cherry was. Ooh, regular grass. Adds in another kind of texture to this. I've decided to turn on and keep night vision. I didn't really like how shadowy the ground was over there. The drawing itself also didn't have any harsh shadows to it, so how it looks in night vision is actually a bit closer to the drawing. Let's keep going down the path. Just gonna figure out the palette for this area. Maybe dead coral? Ooh, I kinda like prismarine. So I figured out a palette, which ended up being a lot of the stripped woods. And I just continued on with the path. Okay, the last section. Now that the path is done, we can focus on the ground. We need to break up all the repeating patterns with the warped nylium, and I'm thinking using dirt would be good. Ooh, I like the coarse dirt. Maybe the rooted dirt for some highlights. Right now I'm kind of looking for more noisy textures. Warped hyphae is kind of interesting. Kind of alien looking. It could be a good darker block. Regular netherrack. I really want to try using glazed terracotta in this. Maybe for the really dark parts. I have a lineup of some blocks that we can use. Unsure about the deep slate. And we'll just place them down. Right off the bat, rooted dirt does not look good. Instead of the dark blocks being used for shadows, I was thinking of them more like different colored dirt or sediment in the ground, and just have them be streaky and splotchy across the landscape. It was honestly fun to try to figure out which blocks to use, just solely relying on the texture of the blocks. From the viewing platform, you can kind of see what it's like over there. I ended up putting a lot of different blocks in this foreground part. There's a bunch of different woods in there, some wool, some nether stuff, and as we go further back, there's less and less block variation. I do like how simplistic this one looks. Just some nice swoopy lines. I'm liking this combination of blocks. We have the resin blocks, the prismarine, and also some raw iron. I'm glad that I did the ground first. It was good practice before we get to the trees. Oh, I almost forgot, we need to roughen up the trunks a bit. Right now they're still just perfect cylinders. Wee! Boop, wee! Boop. We can also soften up this top edge. What the... How did this even happen? That is weird. For each tree, we are going to make the bottom of the roots the darkest part, and then it'll gradually get lighter and lighter as it goes up, with some darker spots here and there. Because we have night vision on, this underside is looking too bright, so we will be putting a darker block there, and have it come down the roots. Let's see. I feel like the majority of this video is me looking in this creative menu. While I was trying to piece together the gradient I was going to use, I got a bit sidetracked. And I ended up making value scales. There's this wood one, and also glazed terracotta and ores, and this one with weird blocks. The hay bales actually look good here. I kind of want to keep making these. First with terracotta. This one is the concrete and wool. Okay, I got distracted. Gotta focus. Also, probably something I should have just done at the very beginning. It might have cut down on some time. Okay, let's get back to the tree. The base is purple terracotta. Wait, this is concrete. Where is it? Where? Not this one. There you are. So we can pick out a darker block for the bottom of the roots. Maybe this one. And then a slightly lighter block. I think we might need something in between the purple and the darkest. Like this one. We're gonna go in with the brush, starting from the tips. With the lighter blocks, we can use it more like highlights. Clean it up. And the lightest. I kind of wish the brush tool made a noise when you used it, like a little squish noise or something. It's kind of too quiet. The tippy top also needs to be lighter, and we can have it streak down. Add some darker bits to the crevices. The underside is going to be dark, like we mentioned before. Okay. For the underside, I really want to try using Skulk. I just like how twinkly it is. It's like a starry sky, but it's on the underside of a tree. The nether wart block kind of also has that spottiness, like the Skulk, but it's lighter, so it is perfect. Just gotta gradient it out. Is it time to use glazed terracotta? Yes. But not too much. Maybe some crying obsidian. Oh, it's drippy too. The gilded blackstone is pretty good for the in-between, between the Skulk and the nether wart. And throw in some Skulk vein, why not? Then I went and added in more fun blocks to help fill out the gradients, but also added more texture. Most of them ended up being wood blocks. And yes, I realized that I was placing them down all wrong. The bark direction is all over the place. I did eventually go back and fix it though. And the first tree is done. Wait, let me just... There we go. I've tried recording this clip multiple times, but I keep finding things that I want to change. Oh, right here too. Sorry. Okay, tree done. Now we gotta do that 3 more times. I think it's montage time. Hello. I'm just fixing up this tent a bit. I want to see if walls work, and I think they kind of do. I also changed out some of the blocks on the tent. Part of the reason was because there wasn't enough contrast between the roots and the tent. So the tent blocks became darker, and the roots I made lighter. But yeah, the trees turned out pretty good. And like I keep mentioning over and over again, there's less detail on them as we go further away from the viewing platform. So in a way, it kind of got easier as I went on. I still use Skulk underneath all the trees, but it gets smaller and smaller the further away it is. I went kind of wild with this foreground tree. I ended up adding in more interesting blocks, like this lapis, and then some leaves, and some mangrove roots. Roots on roots. All that's really left to do are the little details. We're gonna add vegetation to the ground. I don't want it to be super lush, just add a bit of texture. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that I'm using a lot of blocks in the ground that you can't plant things on. But I did use coarse dirt in patches and some moss, so in those areas we can plant the usual things. Then there's the dead coral that can go on anything, which is good. The cactus flower and the pickles can also be placed, and the amethysts, ferns, and the nether plants. Can't forget these. Wow, the rosebush looks weird in grayscale. I'm gonna avoid using the flowers. I want the plants down here to look kinda alien and from another world. Specific plants are gonna be together in clumps. So we have moss here, so we can do all the grass and the ferns. Bushes. I really like these little nether sprouts. The dead coral will look good on the sides of the path because they're a bit more brighter than the rest of the plants. Oh, the amethyst buds, they're great. They look like little flowers. We need to bury some firefly bushes too, but we're only gonna have it in this area, almost like the presence of this person with a tent is causing the ground to react in some way. Every world needs some stones. Next little detail are the birds in the sky. Like I mentioned before, I want to make them animated with Buildstone. I saw this in a video from Jake Kelton a little while ago. I'll try to find it again and put it in the description. I am going off of memory here, but I believe it's like a skulk sensor, and then just trapdoors for the wings. Oh, there it goes. Maybe a slab for the tail feathers. Lightning rod for the neck and head. Weird alien bird. If you get enough birds in proximity to each other, they should be able to set each other off, like a chain reaction. So let me go and put a bunch of them down. Look at them flapping away. Maybe we can put buttons on the bottom. It could be their little legs tucked in for flying. The birds were technically the last thing that we needed to do, but these empty tops of the trunks are bothering me. It feels like there should be something up here. And I'm picturing each one to have like a separate scene or environment on top of them. Nothing too elaborate, I'm gonna keep it simple. We're not gonna worry about the tonal value of the stuff up here because you won't see it from down below. I just want it to be lush and full of life, in contrast to what's going on down below. This one is full of flowers. And over here, lots and lots of sunflowers. Ooh, the birds have stopped flapping. Do I just need to start it up again? Just gonna flap the trapdoors a few times. Okay, kinda got it to work again. I'll figure this out later. Gonna continue on and just finish these first. This one is a little pond with some fish for the birds. And last but not least, tree with rock. Back to the birds. I want to give them a longer neck and maybe some fancy tail feathers. There's also a solution for the flapping situation. You can just put an endermite on top of the sensors and they'll just keep setting it off over and over again. So that works out. And now we can have one that's further away from the rest and it'll still be able to flap its wings. With that figured out, we just have to do one final pass and do some final finishing touches, which was mostly just expanding the edges of the ground and cleaning them up into a nice little square. I then got an idea that maybe these trees are actually creatures that are moving so slowly that they look still. So I lifted up some of the legs, almost like they're inching very, very slowly towards something. Whoop! Oh, that was close. I had no clue if this was gonna work, but I think it turned out great. I actually enjoy building in Grayscale. It was a bit of a struggle at the beginning because it was hard to not think of the blocks in color, but it got easier as time went on. Let's go take a little walk. We have the little campground, and inside... Wait, I forgot the pole. Let's just fix that. There we go. I've also added some storage and a bed, of course. Threw in some paper and books. Maybe the person in the tent is a researcher of some sort. And along the pathway we go. I was worried that this wasn't going to look good close up, because I was building this to be viewed from the platform, but it turned out alright. There's still some interest on the path, even though it gets more simple the further we go back. The 3 sections for the ground worked out. I like how there isn't a stark line between the sections. I was able to gradient it out smoothly. And now it is time for the part that I was excited about. We finally get to see what this looks like in full color. Luckily, I was able to avoid spoiling myself. Kind of. I did accidentally see my hotbar a couple of times, and I might have seen like the thumbnail of a screenshot from the corner of my eye. But other than that, I have no clue what this looks like. Alright, are you ready? Because I'm not. 3, 2, 1. Whoa. Wow. That is something. I don't know what to say. What is this? It's a monstrosity. Everything's so saturated. Oh. I really have no words. Oh wow, the underside. The red. I knew when I was putting it down that it was the wart blocks. And I guess I kind of knew it was red, but this is wild. Wow, look at this. The magenta carpet. This part's actually cool. Okay, the lime green is very vibrant. Oh, the dead coral looks so sad next to everything else. It's so gray. Wow. I can't stop saying wow. Oh, and we can see that it's a soul campfire. I actually put it down and then forgot which one I used. Oh, what does the top of the trees look like? I mean, I used pretty normal blocks up there, so it shouldn't be too scary. Okay, let's see. Let's see what this top is like. Oh, it's so quaint. It's so normal. I am very glad that I made the tops of these using regular blocks. Something about the contrast is interesting. The birds are also pretty vibrant. Still flapping. Oh, looking at the ground from up here. Interesting. Yeah, I do like the foreground ground the best. In Grayscale, I like the middle, but that orange is so saturated. And honestly, when I was putting down the lapis blocks, I was like, this is gonna stick out so much. Maybe I shouldn't put the lapis here. The lapis is the least offensive thing that's on this tree. Ooh, what does the scales look like? Does it make sense in color? Kind of. I used 2 light gray concrete here. Oops. Is this what you guys expected? I'm not sure what I expected. But it definitely was not this. Let's quickly go back in Grayscale and look at it again. Oh, it's so much more calm. Okay, I kind of took some time to calm down. Honestly, it's not all bad. I'm kind of getting used to how weird it is. The colors here kind of reminds me of those petri dishes with like the bacteria growth, or maybe like some sort of mold. Maybe that's part of the world building for this. But there are some parts that I do think work. Like down here on this ground. Even though with like the turquoise and all the different colors, it's pretty wild. Overall, it's somewhat cohesive. I'm really happy that I didn't look at the colors before this. It's just a shock to the system. Was this useful? I'm not sure. It was definitely fun, and it might be good when I'm building next time and I'm having trouble picking between blocks. I can just make the monitor go grayscale and then look at the values and then choose the blocks from there. It also might allow you to come up with some interesting block palettes, some that you might have not ever thought of in your wildest dreams. I mean, look at this. I would have never chosen any of these blocks if I saw them in color first. I do like the idea of using value studies in my drawing process. Maybe before we draw in the next episode, I could do a little thumbnail value study before I get to coloring. Oh, actually, I just had a thought. All the recordings that I did are in full color. I'm gonna need to go and convert it all into grayscale when I go to edit. So I'm gonna upload a second version of this video, but it'll be in color. I'll leave a link to that down below. And if this looked fun, you should give it a try. So thank you for sticking around and watching this weird idea of a video. And thank you always for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye!